Hey, how are you, Cynthia Archer? Going live on two formats again today. I've got you folks over in TikTok land and you guys over in YouTube land, which needs some more light. Give me a second. All right, let's see how that is. Definitely needed more light. That works better. How is everyone today? Hey, Melissa, I see you. It's been a long time. How are you? Good to see you. Looks like we've got TikTok leading the show at the moment. But YouTubers are coming along. Hey, Jennifer. Hi, Leslie. How are you, T Girl? Thompson RC. New here. How's it going? It's going well. What's going on, Deborah Powell? How's everybody doing this Friday night? What's up? Not a lot. Yeah, I've got it. So on YouTube, and I think on TikTok as well, basically what we're calling this is AOL Chatrooms Revisited. Because the idea is there was a time when we really came along and things started to change. I just made a video talking about how different kids today are versus how we were growing up. And that today, thank you. Today, when we look at things and look at how things are, a lot of kids are moderated online. My kid just got out of a 2-day time out that was given to her by Roblox because she said something in chat that was deemed inappropriate. And it got me thinking, and it actually led me towards the idea of creating a video. I'm like, we had real world fights that were often refereed by like the lunch lady. Do you guys remember being let out of lunch? When lunch was over, that's when we got our recess. But even in like middle school and high school, we had time at the end of lunch, if we didn't spend it all eating, to just kind of go outside. And that's where a lot of the fights I remember happening. And it would literally be, hey, Alex, what's going on? It would literally be the cafeteria lunch ladies that were tough as nails. And I remember them grabbing us by the back of our necks and separating us. It wasn't always the wrestling coach. It wasn't always the principals. Sometimes it was the lunch lady. Adam says the lunch lady was my mom. Dude, I can't imagine. But those lunch ladies were tough. But we grew up in a world where there was no time out. There was knocked out. I was a good kid. I was a very calm kid growing up, and I still took a punch or two. We got punched a lot, but like today I was talking to my daughter about it, and she gets bent out of shape. She's like, yeah, I got moderated on Roblox. I can't play for 2 days because I called somebody a wiener or a weenie. And I'm like, wow. And I get that kids have, their thing. Every generation has their thing. It's just that particular thing couldn't be any more different if we tried. So my point is, we did enter into that digital world, though. For us, it was in the late 80s and 90s, and a lot of us started joining into chat rooms. And then the whole ASL, age, sex, location, we started connecting in the late 80s and early 90s, and we started connecting digitally. It kind of had the best of both worlds. We had the in the now, and we had the digital. And I think our kids forget that. They think that we were this free-range, feral childhood. They don't realize the other half of it was that we did, in fact, understand technology. We pioneered it. We beta tested it. I was a beta tester. Hey, Raylene, good to see you. I was a beta tester for AOL. I got my CDs before you got yours. So when you were all on AOL version 4.0, my CD came in the mail for 4.8. I was always a little bit ahead of the curve because I was cool like that. Hey, John, I would love to talk to you, dude. My name is David. Talk away, David. Prodigy. I remember Prodigy. Lori says she was also a beta tester for AOL. Hey, Grendel, good to see you. One of the members of our core. So was I. I've got Deej over on the other side, also a beta tester. Now, they didn't pay us anything. We just got access to new tech before the rest of the world did. We were the ones that were able to put up with things being a little glitchier than normal. And for that, we got to have, well, that doesn't look good, the beta testing stuff. I'm trying to get the light to equalize here. Grendel's Rage. I like that name. Steve Lambert, afternoon, sir. My mom worked at school, so I knew better than to get in trouble. I had friends whose parents were teachers. I had friends, hey, Samantha from Buffalo. I had friends whose parents were teachers and that worked at the school, but you know what? It didn't matter. I guess that would be an extra level of a worry, but our parents found out. For as being uninvolved as our parents were in our daily upbringing, if we really screwed up in school, sooner or later, for a lot of us, our parents found out. But yeah, getting back to that Prodigy, I remember Prodigy. Who remembers CompuServe? CompuServe was also going head to head with AOL at the time. I was using my college internet and worked out at the student help desk, had to figure out how to deal with these kids coming in and talking about this AOL thing. Net Zero. Now, was Net Zero, I think, was an ISP as well, though, correct? That was an internet service provider. So that's the other thing kids forget is we needed access to the internet. It wasn't just floating in the air. Some of us went directly through AOL. If you remember the early years, how many of us, if you didn't live in a city that had a local number for AOL, you were screwed. I grew up in 315 land in the sticks in Western New York between Rochester and Syracuse. And we didn't have a local AOL number. So when we first started to get AOL and I was home from school, it was a long distance call. So you connected to the phone call. Everybody remembers that sound. And then you connected. But every second that I was on there, it was costing long distance telephone rates. And then ISP started to come along. So you'd pay Net Zero $20 a month. And Net Zero would call AOL, and AOL would give you access to the internet. For kids to think we don't get tech, we really do get tech, because tech was a lot harder than pushing an icon on your phone and then boom, there's TikTok. It was a lot harder than just going directly to YouTube. We not only fought for our right to party, we fought for the ability to get online without being too inappropriate. Kids can pull up anything they want online and it's just there instantly in 4K. For us, if we wanted to watch things, even static images buffered. And if you wanted to watch video, what's going on, Kim from North Carolina? Good to see you. Hey, Hermit. Hey, Kate. Suzanne Hooker. Good to see you. Lori Rogers. Again, Adam Netton. I know we've said hi. If you wanted to, hey, from Albany, New York. Nice to see you. Georgia the Greek, nice to see you. Thank you for the gifts, guys. Appreciate it over on TikTok. Yasu Yori Yasu. We really did have to understand the tech, is my point. And I don't think we get enough credit for that. When they boomer us, when they basically just think that anybody over the age of 35 doesn't understand tech, they forget that I think we know it more than they know it. Thank you for the gifts, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you. Don't feel in any way, shape, or form it's necessary. It's always appreciated, but thank you again. I appreciate it. We took programming. I remember, do you guys remember GeoCities? Do you guys remember the early websites? Hey, Tracy from Belfast. The early websites were just so basic and kind of cool, but it was like GeoCities, and there were these hosts. Henry said, do I know it? I created it. I will agree that kids that we adopted tech, but we weren't born to it like these kids are. No, we were immigrants. We were technological immigrants. We woke up one day and found ourselves in a new country, in a new world, and adapted to it. Just think about any immigrant. If I pick you up today and put you down into a different country, you really have to work hard to understand it. It's not native to you. It wasn't native to us. We immigrated into it. We helped create it. Hermit says Lycos chat rooms were addictive. Mark remembers MySpace. I missed the MySpace movement. I don't know how I missed it, because I was always really into tech as new things came along. I very early pioneered getting on Facebook and any up right up until now with TikTok. Anything I can get on early, I get on. Funny story. I have reasons to reject Facebook. Brent, believe me when I tell you, I have reasons to reject Facebook too. My dad, Boomer, apparently embraces it and missed my birthday and blamed me for not being on Facebook. Yeah, Brent, not my favorite place in the world these days. T-Girl says, I was so addicted to ICQ. A lot of shy, thank you for the follow, guys. A lot of shy girls, and maybe even shy guys, really embraced chat rooms. I had friends who really found it a way to really engage for the first time without being judged on their looks or their weight or their whatever it is, their insecurities. With no necessarily, I mean, I knew people that had lifelong, who had friends for months, weeks, years, never met. And that was new. I was too old for MySpace. Amy says, I love chat rooms. It was just a different thing. And there was a chat room for everything and everybody. Love gardenias? Come to the AOL Gardenia chat room. Yori, you big on Greek food? You want some spanakopita or baklava? Come into this chat room. It curated those things for us. Welcome, you've got mail. When I hear that, you've got mail, it's funny what can be nostalgic. It's funny what can trigger serotonin. John says, do you remember the old Texas Instrument computers from '83? Maybe. I remember the Timex. There was a Timex Sinclair 1000. I remember was supposed to be the computer to change everything because it was only like, I want to say $100, and it connected to your television. It was basically not much more than a keyboard. That one I remember. Yodi says, I just made lamb on the grill. I'm jealous. Individual website chat rooms are pretty much gone now. Yeah, it is. And it's not chat rooms so much. It's this. But I'll tell you what, I was working Tuesday night and we had, I remember Net TV. I remember the Commodore 64. I was working at the bar that I work at, and we have a trivia night on Tuesdays. And I thought, you know what, it could be fun. I haven't been online yet this week. Let me jump online and just kind of I'm going around, I'm working, I'm making drinks, I'm running around like a lunatic. I don't know if any of you were on, it was on YouTube for Tuesday. And I just started popping back and forth watching the chat. And it was running like an actual, thank you for the gifts, guys. I appreciate it. It was running like an actual chat room. I wasn't really front and center. I was going in and out, but I looked and there were literally hundreds of people just having a conversation without the YouTuber, without that person here. Michelle Lipa. Michelle's a YouTube follower, and she was there. It was I read it after the fact, like I was in somebody else's room. It was kind of cool. I was heading into high school and computers were getting big. Hey, Don, how are you? Fifth grade is the first time I remember taking a computer class. Elementary school, they took some of us more geeky kids, the ones that were doing really well. They picked a very select few of us and put us out there. So we got to work on the Radio Shack TRS 80s, kind of ahead of other kids. And we were the first to go on them. And back in those days, yes, Sarah, I remember the Apple IIe. That came right after or around the same time as the Trash 80s. Syntax error. Like Lippe, but close. Okay. Like Lippe. I'm still not getting it. I've got a Greek food question. Go ahead and ask. John, thank you so much. I still remember when my high school got computers in the 80s, there were maybe 20 Apple IIes and 2 Apple GSs. We fought for the GS. Was the GS the one that had a little bit of color to it? Because some of those early, like the 2E, if I'm remembering it right, had kind of like the green screen. It was just green font coming up on a screen, but the GS had a little bit more color capability, and that's why we were all fighting for it. Yeah, Lori, the Trash 80s. And the Trash 80s, the way we saved a program, yes, the GS had color. God, you guys just unlocked a memory for me. The way we would record, people don't realize this. If you had a program and you wanted to save it on the early 2RS 80s, what's the dessert that was like shredded? Kadaifi. Kadaifi is a dessert that has like nuts and shredded wheat over the top, and it's rolled around, and it's got honey on the outside, but it's really like a simple syrup over the top. My wife makes incredible kadaifi, and it is my favorite dessert. Anybody wants to send some, let me know. I will threaten my life by giving, and my wife can make it. I don't have to throw out my address in order to get Greek pastries. Other pastries, maybe. Hey, Cleo. What were we talking about before somebody threw my attention away to Greek pastries? Oh, if you wanted to save a program, it was the cassette deck. There was literally a cassette deck that was wired into the computer with a tape. We literally put, yes, there we go, break out that cassette tape to save the program. Brent remembers. That's crazy. It was saved on tape. And I'd forgotten that for a while. Does anybody remember the Philips CDI gaming system? I don't. Commodore 64 had one. 5.2. Yeah, they were the floppy drives that were actually the floppy disks. Travel with Leanne, thank you for the gift. Appreciate you. Apple PowerBook G3 for graduation. It's amazing, but I mean, I could talk on it for a while because it's something I think we forget about. We get so much um, clout, we get so much attention, we get so much. John, again, thank you. So remember being taught turtle, forward 100, right turn 90, forward 100, etc. to make a square. Johnny, I'm not sure I remember that. Turtle. That one escapes me a little bit. Thank you for the generosity, though. I remember on the Trash 80s, one of my first programs making a rocket ship take off. It was nothing more than a series of exclamation points that were in series. So you would draw with an exclamation point. You would start with a number like 10. The command would be CLS to clear the screen in basic programming. Kevin, you would know this. So you'd start with 10 CLS, and then you would hit print, and then you would put out your drawing. And if you wanted it to go in a loop, you would simply use a semicolon, use a go to or go subroutine, and then hit run. I was kind of a dork, but I still remember some of my basic programming. Do I remember the first laptops? They weighed 473 and a half pounds. So, yeah. Hey, John Millennial here, 1990. Still laughing about the Pacific Mineral. Made my day for sure. It's not trending on YouTube the way it took off on TikTok. There was a mineral generation, this lovely young woman who mispronounced the word millennial as mineral, and just had some notions about what it is to be Generation X. You know, she came after a few of us. She didn't. I mean, I didn't say anything mean about her. I just kept saying, yeah, no, that's you know, we're not who you think we are. Those words don't mean what you think they mean. But you have a good life and it's all good. But she went after a few people after the fact. Between saying she would pray for us and that we were a horrible, horrible generation of mean people, between the praying and the calling us horrible, she threatened death upon at least a few Xers. So that's good. I missed out. Never had. I think I did have an IBM. I had an IBM laptop. My earliest might have been a Sony. Sony had some decent laptops, but again, they weighed a ton. Am I from South Carolina? I live there now, but I am originally from Western New York. I live just south of the Charlotte area. Sheila doesn't know if she thinks she doesn't know us to think we care about her prayers. I mean, the lady with no eyebrows. Yes, I joked that apparently the oil-based paint that she used for eyeliner melted off her eyebrows. That or the explosion that caused her concussion also burnt off her eyebrows. Is what it is. My feeling was hurt. Sarah, only one at a time. Never take more than two feelings out at a time. C. Wright asks, I am new to this channel. How does your last name sound? It sounds Cotredes. And the easy way to remember Cotredes is in fifth grade, I ran for student council president, and the opponent, Jason Barnes, who ran against me, put up posters saying, before I vote for John Cotredes, I'll eat a bowl of poison Wheaties. And they plastered these things all over the school. And it took. And I mean, there's nothing much more 80s I can say, except that no teacher even thought for a moment that maybe they should take that down because it was hurtful. I mean, whatever. But I mean, that could you imagine today a sanctioned student council election? And those were the kind of posters that went up. I ran for homeroom rep and won in fourth grade. I finally won in the sixth grade, but the fifth grade, the poison Wheaties took me out. Monica, thank you for the follow. Hello from the Australia chapter of Gen X. How are you, Queen Sophia? Good to see you. Happy to have you on board. Thank you for the follow. I never noticed the eyebrows till you said something. Michelle, it looked like a talking potato. I'm not trying to be mean. Yeah, but I mean, if a thumb could talk and have an Instagram or a TikTok account, that's pretty much what it would look like. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for the team bracelet, Autumn. John, again, thank you so much for the gifts over on the YouTube side. You guys don't have to do this. It's really, really appreciated. It takes up a lot of time to do this. When I did this as a hobby, I had no idea how much of my life this would take and how happy I would be to give it. I'm sad my son's school doesn't have shop. That's where I learned how to do wiring and drywall. Shop is, let's see, what did I make in shop? I made a chessboard. And it was basically you had to take two different colors of wood and line them up into strips and then cut them in quarters and flip it around. And I also made my own pieces too in ceramic. So it was like a double art slash shop project. Monica, thank you for sharing the live on TikTok. Empty Wig over on YouTube says they made a bookshelf. I was nowhere near that talented. I rebuilt a Chevy 454, says Primetime Tunes. Damn. Sarah brings up the Atari ET scandal. Never had the ET game. Hard to believe it could be any worse than the. Can you have my T-shirt? No, thank you. Hard to believe it could be any worse than the basketball games, the sports games. C. Wright, thank you so much for the super. Appreciate you, my friend. If you remember those, or the ET game was horrid, but at least you could kind of, sort of imagine that was ET. If you, I don't know, Empty Wig, take a moment when you have time and just Google what the basketball game looked like. It was like 2-bit, literally 2 bits worth of processing power. It was horrible. One of the most common shop class items was an ashtray made of plastic and formed by heating with a torch. Imagine that today. John, I love you to death. That is a great story. That is an awesome memory. I'll go you one better. At least in shop, we were old enough where they were almost letting us smoke by the time we made the ashtrays. The one better is before we were old enough to smoke in school and made ashtrays like that in shop, they had us making them in elementary school art class to give to our parents as gifts. Now, if that's not a childhood brought to you by Philip Morris, I don't know what is. I mean, talk about encouraging smoking. And somebody on TikTok said it was a candy dish. Yeah, my ass, it was a candy dish. That was, we even used our finger. You know how I know it wasn't a candy dish? Because all of them, if you look at them, we used our tiny little fingers to make the 4 indentations around the circle where the cigarettes rested. That's how we knew. Made a copper ashtray in metalwork. That ashtray was the only gift my parents kept. They had that thing for years. When it finally made its way outside of the house, my dad even took it into the garage. Anything I won, any award, any trophy didn't make its way around. But I'm telling you, that ashtray, those ashtrays were appreciated by our parents. No one in all Gen X videos I've seen ever mentioned the Intellivision. I've mentioned it because it's actually the better tech. John, do you have Blockbuster T in your shop? I don't have this version of it in my shop, Jer. I think I tried once, and even though they're they're still kind of around. There's still a Blockbuster presence, so they won't allow it for copyright purposes. I was able to kind of steal the outside because it really is just a movie ticket. And I've got this T-shirt with Generation X on the inside. It's as close as I could get. Anything handmade were treasures at my mom's house. Well, Primetime Tunes, you were a treasured, loved child. I don't know what to say. My parents loved me. They didn't treasure me. HM, good day to you. Coming from Australia, I would guess. Not good with the flags. I had a Magnavox Odyssey. Dude, that is awful. You don't need to know. Over on YouTube is watching our lives and Sanford and Son at the same time. Tell you what, the thing about Sanford and Son, you got to be careful. I was watching an episode of Sanford and Son, and my 12-year-old was sitting next to me. And I didn't think anything of it because if you looked up Sanford and Son back when we watched it, it was primetime television. It wasn't like on cable only. It was on network TV. It was on Family Hour, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And so I thought nothing of it. I watched it as a child. Why can't my daughter be sitting next to me? Lots of reasons. Lots and lots of reasons, not the least of which is Aunt Esther would call Fred the N-word about 12 times an episode when she got going. My jaw hit the floor. I'd somehow forgotten that and changed the channel very quickly. Because what was okay when we were kids? Yeah, certainly not okay today. And some of that stuff, I'm like, yeah, it should still be okay. Some of that stuff, I'm like, no, it has no business being okay. But still love Sanford and Son. Hey, Tree, how are you? I saw somebody said something about the Bills hat. Morgan Mindy, thank you for the follow. Tree, good to see you. I bet if you buy a hat like that, you get a free bowl of soup. Why did I go back to read that? Show you when we win a Super Bowl someday. Charlie H, thank you so much. Do I remember playing games on the Apple II? I remember playing games on a lot of the computers. They weren't great games. Even our computer games needed technology. How goes the fight tree? If you're speaking to that awful, horrible, desolate place that is known as Meta and Facebook, it's going. I actually opened up a claim against them today with my state attorney general's office. So we'll see. I'm not holding out hope. They do what they want. The latest is just that their technology detected some issues. So their technology acted to cancel or to disable the account. Apparently, no one's driving the technology. I'm telling you, we're gonna have a problem. We're gonna have a major problem. And I'm not saying it's Terminator showing up naked on our door, looking for Sarah Connor level problems, but there's less and less people and more technology driving, and we're gonna have a problem. I deleted my Facebook account last year. Best thing I ever did. I was successful there. I thought I enjoyed the community of people. Blaming it on AI already? Yeah, Alex, they are. But I think they can because he fired something like 160,000 people and replaced them with the tech. So there's that. Back in the early 80s in Massachusetts, we had the pre-capable thing called Starcase. Never heard of that. Placing a microwave antenna on the roof of your house. Yeah, our games needed imagination. A lot of our games were if what, if this, then what. So they would just tell us things like you're at a fork in a road. To the left, you see the sun setting. To the right, there's a strange haze. Which way do you go? It's kind of like those books. ASL 54, all man and living in, well, don't talk to my wife. Mostly man. A lot of man, some man. Testosterone is not what it once was. But at any rate, currently near Charlotte. Yeah, do you remember it was like those directional books where we would choose our own ending? That's what our games were like. You are doing this. This is what's happening. Where do you want to go? And I think those were cool. It caused us to think, hey, what's going on, Eli? It caused us to imagine. It caused us to think about consequences. And we saw the game play out in our head. It wasn't really a picture of anything. Hey, Forrest, how are you? Yeah, exactly. The choose your own adventure books. Point and click games. Everyone's got it. Do I remember IRC chats? I think so. I'm worried once the nostalgia appeal runs its course, people will fall into depression. I don't know, Rain. I think nostalgia is a natural occurring emotion. I don't think it's a new thing. Generations before us have got into it. Once you're old enough that your memories are longer, the days behind you are beginning to rival the days ahead. I think it's a naturally occurring thing. I think it has its place. Those books came out around the same time as D&D. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Acoustic G-String. Appreciate the comment. I still use IRC chat. Been using it for 25 years now. Man, totally forgot my ICQ number. Sorry, but I love dodgeball. I didn't love dodgeball, but I was a wimp. I was not very strong. I was nearly blind. I wore Coke bottle eyeglasses that, as I've said before, I could use to burn ants on a sidewalk on a February day in Buffalo. It can be cloudy as hell. Those glasses could absolutely magnify light on a very, 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 very high level. That was my game. I popped the, oops, I lost it. Oh, dodgeball was your game? Nice. I can't see you being a wimp. Oh, I weighed like 40 pounds until the 8th grade. I got pictures. I can prove it. But it made me tough. Like I said, we all took punches. That's how we started this conversation today, right? We all took punches. We all took our turn. We all had to stand up for ourselves, or we all had to be able to learn how to talk our way out of it. One of the two. Eli says, I loved dodgeball when I was the most athletic kid in the class. Yeah, that day was a Tuesday in kindergarten when half the rest of the class was out sick. That's the only time I was that kid. By the time I hit like middle school, I started to catch up. Played a decent game of soccer by about junior year. That was about it. 10th grade. My mom was so poor, one of her Coke bottle lenses fell out in the snow and they had to wait till spring to find it. Dude. What other games do you guys remember? What are the good games? I've got a video series where there's a kid that's been kind enough to revisit some of our games. And the cool thing is, I was talking to one Gen Z kid, and he was saying, well, we just, Operation. Exactly, Sherry. He played Operation. He played Perfection, Superfection, Simon. And he asked me if I'd ever played Bop It. And I'm like, of course I've played Bop It. And he was really shocked. He's like, I can't believe you played those games. I'm like, listen, so my parents didn't play games with us. My parents were busy working, God love them, so that they really didn't have time to play games with us. Games were what we did to get out of their way. So my parents don't know what games we really played. I can only speak for myself. My parents also didn't watch the television shows I watched. My parents didn't watch the movies I watched. The kids were the kids and the adults were the adults, and never the two shall meet. With my kids, I played their games with them. I watched, God help me, Barney. I still remember a lot of the Barney songs. Hey, Knickerbocker, Boppity Bop. The I Love You, You Love Me. The damn Backpack Dora songs. The Mickey Mouse Clubhouse songs. I know those songs. When she got older, even though I'm a dad, I've got two daughters. Like it or not, High School Musical, I've probably seen 34 and a half times. So the kids are shocked that even that's kind of nostalgic for me because I see it through the eyes of my kids. That makes sense. Do I remember the board game Dark Tower? I don't. I remember the commercial about the board game Dark Tower, now that you mention it. You cannot talk your way out of it if you're from Binghamton and everyone else is from South Georgia. I can understand that, Grendel. Yeah, I remember the Dark Tower commercials. They made that game look very, very, very cool. Who else had to learn square dancing in gym? I would gather most of us. Etch-a-Sketch Shadow, the only thing I could do on Etch-a-Sketch was draw stairs in a box. Not even a box, a square. I think part of the thing with square dancing is that it was cheap. So we're all in these rural, poor, underutilized, underfunded schools. And they're like, what can we do that'll teach these kids to listen, keep them occupied, and not cost us any money? And inevitably, invariably, the answer is dodgeball and even cheaper square dancing because they didn't even need a ball for it. Parachute in school, awesome day. Square dancing in gym. Who grew up with Fraggle Rock? I didn't have cable at the time. I grew up with the Muppet Show. As close as I got to Fraggle Rock. Gnip-a-gnop. My neighbor said gnip-gnop. Gym scooters were awesome, Shadow. I ran over my fingers constantly. Kick the can. If somebody were to knock on my door right now and say, can Johnny come out and play Kick the Can, I'd be out there in 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Donnie says we had country cable. The only version of country cable I had was the UHF dial. And what I mean by that is we had 3 channels on the top and we had 1 on the bottom, and the bottom was UHF. And I always looked at that as being cable-esque because we had local channels like WUHF 31, which was the Fox affiliate, PBS. That was kind of our version of cable because we grew up in the sticks and it wasn't out there yet. Did anyone else have track and field days where you trained in gym and then competed? We didn't train. It just kind of got thrown at us all at once, but we did it. Ingrid, hacky sacks is a college memory for me. 31 Fox Rochester. Yep, with Ranger Bob, WUHF 31. Howdy Buckaroos was the oft-mentioned greeting on that channel. For those that know, you know. We had VHF channels 2, 4, 5, 7, and 10, and UHF 25, 38, 56, and 64. Damn, Obert. We live between 2 cities, Rochester and Syracuse, so we could get double. 2 CBS, 2 ABC, 2 NBC. So that was kind of cool. Batman TV show was awesome, Brian. May have been the same school system. Commodore 64, also from South Carolina. Nice. Flag football turned into tackle football. We didn't even pretend. There was no flag football. Outside games. Mother May I, red light, green light, capture the flag was a huge one. Thing about capture the flag that was awesome is we could have almost as many kids as would show up. Split it down the middle, have at it. Just hide that flag. I mean, that was a great game. Somebody knocks on the door right now and says, I want to play capture the flag. I'm out there too. You know, today's the second longest day of the year. Should have been the first, but I think it's a leap year screwed us up. I might play with the kids tonight. Being in Western New York, my YouTube TV constantly switched from Buffalo to Rochester stations. Yeah, we would do that with Rochester and Syracuse because we were right between those two. I remember in Buffalo when I went to school, I went to UB, and we'd get like a lot of the Canadian stations. And I still joke today when people ask me what part of New York I'm from now that I'm in the Carolinas, I tell them the Canadian part. BB gun wars, that's funny. We had a 3-pump rule on the air rifle. Any more than 3, and that's when we knew it would penetrate skin. We still cheated. Thank you, Nicholas. Mask was a family favorite. That was a good cartoon. Kick the can, hide and seek. Cheap kid sets. Was that the jarts? Trying real high. I think I'm doing all right. I got 2 comment streams going. Every now and then somebody will do a super thanks on the YouTube side, John S. and a few others, and that slows the chat down for a minute and gives me a chance to reset, if I'm being honest. That's one of the cool things about that. Who remembers Red Rover? Clothes lining people? How could you forget? Ghost of the Graveyard. Spitball Wars in school, in class, constantly get in trouble for that. What was the Cowboy in Space cartoon? Shadow, you lost me on that one. Don't know. 3-pump rule was law. Violations were punishable by free shots. Yes, obvious. 100%, 1000%, absolutely the way it was. You don't need to know, says, man, you should organize a massive game of Red Rover. I'd be all over it if I had the capability somehow to make it happen. Just the Gen X games. Instead of the X games, do a Gen X games. Get major games of dodgeball going. Did anybody else besides my school call it warball? Space Ghost it couldn't have been that. Gary Gnu. Cowboys of Mumasa. Is that it? Shadow? I don't know. Somebody said that on this side. But any game we had, I did a video on this. Any game we had, we turned into Bloodsport. As little kids, we found a way to weaponize Duck, Duck, Goose. We made Duck, Duck, Goose violent. I remember major like outbreaks of near fights over musical chairs. When that music stopped, we beat the hell out of each other trying to get the last chair, pushing, shoving, pulling, hitting, whatever it took. Literally, there was no way there was a game of musical chairs without somebody tumbling because we hit them hard. And the best part of it was, it's not that we did these things as kids. Kids will do these things today. It's that no adult interceded. There was no intervention from adults. That's what's crazy. Hi, Barb Green. Am I originally from Buffalo? I'm originally from Wolcott, New York, which is a small town situated between Rochester and Syracuse. But I went to school at UB. Spent about 10 years living in Buffalo in the late 80s all the way through the 90s. Cakewalks, I don't know that. Bloody Knuckles, I do know that. Musical chairs is a full contact sport, absolutely, without pads and helmets. Hey, Melissa, glad you could catch it. There's no competition today. There's still competition, but again, I think kids will be kids no matter what. I don't think intrinsically the nature of being a child changes. What changes is what the adults in the room are going to allow. And worst case scenario, there are no adults in the room. And when we were growing up, the adults in the room allowed a lot more. And in the worst case scenario, the adults weren't in the room at all. Today, I'm a parent. I have a 20-year-old, and my youngest is 12. I'm not sure what that said. My youngest is 12. I don't allow them. I didn't allow the older one to do the things I did. We change things. We kind of have to, partly because the world is not necessarily a different place, but it's one that we know a lot more about. We know a lot more about the world today than our parents knew or cared to know about because of news and internet and 24-hour news cycle and all that crap. So yeah, they wanted them to not be scarred for life. Yeah. You know, it's the participation trophy awards homesick. Yeah, that went overboard. Barb's still coming in from Amherst. I spent a lot of time in Amherst. So I went to UB. I lived on Chestnut Ridge, Joe McCarthy Drive, right off of Niagara Falls Boulevard. My kids are 40, 38, and 37. Anyone have a Bubblicious baby doll that roller skated and blew a bubble? I did not. Tetherball, Foursquare. Somebody mentioned Foursquare. Flipping baseball cards or quarters, marbles. I did all of that. We played release. 2 teams. One was it, and had to capture members of the other. 1, 2, 3. My prisoner caught. So we called it. I think we called that manhunt. It seems a lot like what you called release, except we would do the same sort of thing. 2 teams, and we would, once you were caught on the manhunters caught you, you ended up on their side. A lot of our games, I think, had different names and slightly different rules, but it's amazing. Well, I'm glad you joined in, Tallman. I was watching a new episode of People's Court. An adult was suing another adult for injury during musical chairs. There it is. Dude, I lived on All Falls Boulevard under the Robinson Street Bridge. I know exactly where that is. Tallman. So I thought. Tall man. All right, that too. Keep a very close eye on the back porch cooler. Okay. Anybody played kickball? Anybody not play kickball? Never got a participation ribbon. I did. I got a field days. Was the only time I ever remember getting a participation ribbon. The teachers basically said that because it was voluntary to be at school that day, it was after the official school year had ended. It was no longer being attendance. It was no longer counting. That they gave participation ribbons out, not the little trophies, but the ribbons, just for those of us that decided to show up because they thought it was worth rewarding. Yeah. Any thoughts on the Bills and National Gay Flag Football League? They are starting. I don't know anything about it, and I'd have to be stupid to even pretend to have an opinion on it publicly one way or the other. So I'm just staying out of it. I mean, and to that point, I don't care what anybody brings up. I have opinions on all kinds of stuff. Some of them make a lot. Do I know anybody by the name of Cook and Wolcott? Mark Cook. When I was growing up, Russ Cook was very, very prominent in our town. He owned the Russ Cook Ford car dealership and donated a lot of money to schools. He donated money to my little league team, so I know those Cooks. Oh yeah, my opinions are my opinions, but opinions they tend to push people apart. And on here, I have far more emphasis placed on bringing us together than I ever want to take us apart. That's all. Gen X are more opinionated than Gen Z. We just know when to keep our mouths shut and not hate each other if we disagree. I'll say that a million times. Somebody told me that's why I got booted off of Facebook, because I too often say that our government wants us divided. Our politicians want us divided. We grew up in schoolyard picks where we had 2 captains, and the captain split us right down the middle, each taking a side. I got you, you get him. I got him, you got you. And that's what we've done. We're a 50-50 nation, deliberately, purposely, intentionally. We're split right down the middle. They each get their fair share, and we hate each other. And I don't like that. I could sit in a room and have a beer and disagree with you, passionately disagree with you on some things. But then I always remember at the end of the day that the reason my opinions are mine instead of yours are that we didn't live the same life. That's all. Thank you so much for the gift. Appreciate it. It's called Conquer and Divide. It's what I feel. I really do think it's that way. And if not conquer, then at least financially benefit from it. We only reach into our pockets and donate to a political campaign if we're angry or scared or can benefit financially. Those are the 3 times people will generally give a decent amount of money to a politician. I'm either afraid that the boogeyman's going to come and get me and they dictate who the boogeyman is, or I'm angry that somebody is the bad guy is going to come and take away my life from me and my family, or I'm going to financially, I mean, look at lobbies. They give money left and right, but they financially benefit. I've said more than I needed to on that. The point is I can disagree with you and still vehemently defend your right to disagree with me. And it's okay. And you know what? I'll go you one better. I don't like everybody in the world. I'm not friends with everybody in the world. There's some people in the world I don't like, and that's okay. Somebody also like them, and that's that. Thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate it. God bless. I thank you so much. Somebody said, did anybody have sea monkeys? Sea monkeys ruined my faith and trust in the world because I bought those stupid things twice, and both times it was like sprinkling dust on water. Empty Wig, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys so much. It never worked for me. And my mom had enough. The second time I bought it with my own money, mind you, my mom had enough. She would not let me use my own money to buy sea monkeys anymore. X-ray glasses. By that time I was disillusioned. I wanted them. You know, 80s. What were the 80s in the 80s like? Rich also says X-ray specs. It's not even that fake X-ray specs existed that was amazing. It's the way they marketed them. Sandy, thank you so much. It's the way that they marketed them to us. Do you guys remember the ads selling X-ray specs in comic books? Yes, Noogie Beck, Mexican jumping beings work, but once a lot of the kids I knew found out why they jumped, they just grossed everybody out. So the way that they marketed them in the comic books would be this little ad in there, but the cartoon picture trying to entice us to buy them was a creepy young boy wearing the glasses and then a silhouette of a young girl. And he was using the X-ray specs to look through her clothing. That's how they unapologetically sold them to us. Sea monkeys were awesome. I had to give them a lot of time. They were just brine shrimp. So they say. Mine were dust. Columbia House Music Club, love it. My best-selling T-shirt is Columbia House Lessons in Music and Debt Collection. Comic books are responsible for many infomercial tropes. Absolutely. How about the beaded bracelets? What else was in comic books? And boys unapologetically bought them. It didn't work. Jack LaLanne Fitness. Yep, they're the ads with the skinny guy that got the sand kicked in his face. And then all of a sudden he's huge. Sizzler magnet toys. I don't remember that. Kind of miss Mystery Theater. I should do something on Mystery Science Theater. That could be fun. Still have all my old Columbia House tapes. Hostess ads were great. They often incorporated the superheroes, Batman and Robin and Wonder Woman. I remember they all had to fight the villains that were trying to steal the Hostess cupcakes and those things. Yeah, Mystery Science Theater was fun. I don't remember exactly what year that came out. 321 Contact, one of my absolute favorite kids show theme songs. Just gets me hyped. Any former Charles Atlas students among us? No, I stayed the skinny kid. Pet rock rain, my mom would not allow. She's like, you're not spending money on a rock. That was a no. Leaving for my 40th class reunion in 20 minutes. Class of 84 rules. That's awesome, Robbie. Although your math doesn't quite work, 84 would have only been 20 years ago. And I'll fight anyone that says differently. What about ant farms? Always wanted one. Ireland, we had a bead van. Anyone remember 2XL? Used to take my mom's 8-track tapes instead of doing learning. Memory unlocked. Class of 85. Gen X test. Count to 12. We all do it. Thank you, Sesame Street. Class of 88. Class of 89. 87. 93. This is the room you go to. If you were class of 90, 91, if you want to feel young, come on in. Because you 90s kids, this is where you come. Oh, look at Eli bragging. 96. Do we have anybody watching from the wonderful world of the 2000s? I think Eli is probably the youngest kid in the house here. 90, 92, 87. Dude, we got a class of 2001, class of 2000. That was yesterday. You graduated yesterday. If you were the class of 2000, you graduated yesterday. John McGuckin says, anybody but me fall for selling the Grit newspaper? Dude, they promised so much money. And it wasn't just Grit. How about I just did a video, I did a meme on selling seeds that you could make money. But dude, 2000 was, it was not 24 years ago. I turned 30 in the year 2000, and my brain stopped aging at 30. So that's how all my math works. If you tell me 1980, well, from 2080 is 20 years, that's where it stayed. 1990 was 10 years ago. 2000 to 2004 is seconds, not counted in years. The Wonder Years were made today, it would be about life in 2004. I will kill you for that. There's no way that's right. Why would you do that? Why? Have I hurt you in some way? Why would you share that? Does that math work? If the Wonder Years were made today, Kevin would be living in 2004. Somebody show me that. And I need to block him for life. You are never coming back in here. Thank you, BMO. Appreciate it. It's math. It's not good math. Dude is savage is right. That is awful. That just knocked me right off of my feet. John says his daughter turns 35 this year. That's awesome. I am the only remaining person in the members only jacket club. I almost bought one today. I saw it on one of those for sale sites for like $80. And I'm like, there's no way I'm paying $80 for a members only jacket. I found some older ones that were in really rough shape. I think I'm just going to go thrifting. I need to get one. 86 baby class. I'm still shocked. Somebody once told me that they did the whole, so Marty McFly in 1985 went back 30 years to 1955. And we've all seen it. We saw how different the world was from 85 to 55. He looked like an alien walking the streets in those clothes. But if Marty McFly, if they were redoing Back to the Future today, he would be going back to 1994. And I have articulated many times that I just don't think there's a difference like that. 94 to 24 is not as different as 55 to 85. It's just not. How about selling candy bars door to door? John Murray, how are any of us still alive? Honestly. And it wasn't, I've said it, it wasn't the selling the candy that put our lives at risk. It was the fact that so many of us walked into strangers' homes while they got us their checkbooks. Come on in while I write you a check, and off we go. You're absolutely breathtaking. Have a beautiful day. Spider Son, I appreciate that. If by breathtaking you mean that I'm exacerbating, my wife would agree with you. Thank you. We've already passed the date by a lot that Marty went to in the future. That was 2015, I think, by a lot. I bet my 8-year-old granny would disagree. I mean, my 12-year-old acknowledges it. Technology's changing. So the technology from 94 till today has been mind blowing. I get that. But the clothes, I could have worn this, and I did wear this in 94. Not that I could have. I literally wore this in 94. And yes, this is vintage, but a t-shirt is a t-shirt. Levi's jeans are Levi's jeans. It's just, and now it's 1980 all over again anyway. Kids are pegging their jeans again. They're wearing parachute pants. Guys have mullets and dirt stashes, and girls are wearing, I mean, it's the 90s, the 80s are back, and I'm here for it. I'm good with it. Where's my cropped shirt? In the garbage where it belongs. That was for a video, and it will never see the light of day. Do I have a single Greek cousin asking for a friend? Not stateside. Side pony is back. I'm waiting for the side part to come back. These Gen Zs hate the side part. I've always been partial to a side part. I like that on a girl. Hope they don't start perming again. I think they have. John, what was my first car? My first car was it was a late model, 68 or 69 Chevy Impala. Climbing a tree a thing anymore? Absolutely is. Do I remember key skates? Dharma, thank you so much for the super thanks. Thank you. And yes, I remember key skates. And the skate with the keys and then the metal bottom skate. Absolutely. All the girls in my neighborhood, the two most popular things, add a third if I can. Two were skating was constant. Jump rope was huge. And even, does anybody remember the lemon skip? The little lemon thing that they would run and skip with? That was pretty cool too. Key skates, I think, were, if I'm remembering right, there are these metal skates that would be worn over the shoes, and you'd use a key to lock them down over your feet to get the size right. If I'm wrong, somebody feel free to correct me. I have two 7-year-olds. Hoppity Hops. I remember Hoppity Hops too. Air Force Dad, thank you for the follow. Yes, about the key skates. I was going to say, no one's telling me I'm wrong. So yeah, that was an easy way. So a lot of people had the key skates. And I mean, our parents didn't want to buy us anything that we could outgrow. So you got to understand that. Thank you for the gift, guys. Our parents never wanted to buy us something that we could grow out of. That's why hand-me-downs were a big deal. That's why we wore clothes long after we shouldn't have. That's why we got made fun of for, floods. Why are you wearing those pants? You think it's going to flood? So the idea of key skates was they had metal wheels. We couldn't outlast them. And as our feet grew, they grew with us. Dude, we can all be amazed at the same time. Nobody believes me. Did I watch Monty Python? I absolutely did. High Waters. Oh my God, I got brutalized for High Waters. And we had different levels. We had different levels of clothes, right? The kids don't do this today, I don't think. At least I don't think they do. We had clothes started at the highest level, the prestigious level. The pristine clothes were church clothes. And if you weren't a church family, then it was wedding clothes, family function clothes. It was the clothes you would wear when you needed to go to church, to a wedding, to a funeral, to an event. Those were those clothes. Next level down from those were school clothes. Still nice. Parents wanted us to look nice for our teachers. They didn't want to be embarrassed. We're the generation that parents' potential embarrassment led to garanimals so that kids could put outfits together and the teachers wouldn't know we didn't have parents at home in the morning. But school clothes were the next level to make sure. And then to Duchess's point, no, Lisa, I am no longer in Buffalo, but I spent a lot of my life there. Play clothes. Play clothes were the third level. And as clothes worked their way down the ladder, eventually, if those play clothes, the school clothes became either hand-me-downs while they were still good, or they became play clothes, and they just let us go at it. But it was important. Everything needed to last, especially if you were a kid of the 70s, excuse me, and the early 80s, because inflation, much like today, I told you the 80s are back. Inflation was ridiculous in the 80s. Gas prices in the late 70s. Our parents got their ass kicked trying to bring us up, so we acted accordingly. Rule number one, nothing goes in the trash. No, patches were not a fashion statement. Patches were meant to extend the life of our clothes. Play clothes, school uniforms, church clothes. I was latchkey at 6 right after my parents divorced. Yeah, divorce is a big part of why we were latchkey. Divorce and the lack of laws. Hated hand-me-downs. Brother was 7 years older. So fashionable. My older brother is only 3 years older than me, so I had a different take on hand-me-downs. Let me know if you guys ever felt the same way, but I would mark clothes. I'd see my brother wearing something really cool and hope that he outgrew it quickly because I wanted it. We still shop at Goodwill. Times are tough. Nothing wrong with that. Anyone remember knickers? Never wore them. Parents used to switch license plates in 79 on the two cars. They did what they needed to do. And I think that's a lesson we might have lost in these days, because I don't remember. It was more, I want to get this right. I think it was more okay to do without in the 70s and 80s. It was more okay to drive a beater, to live in a smaller house, to have older clothes, to the kids not to be in dance, to not be on the team, to not do what they needed to do, wanted to do. It was okay for that to happen. And it's just the way it was. We can't afford it. Today, I know, myself included, parents will take second, third jobs, mom and dad both working a ton in order to make sure kids don't do without. I could be wrong. Thank you so much, Bucolic Buffalo. Appreciate you, man. All of you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. I don't think kids do without as much. And again, not a judgment call. I'm guilty of it. My daughter's in dance. My daughter is in volleyball. My daughter does a lot of things, and we try to balance it right, and find the good balance. But it's I think it's less likely that if there are any other options, kids will not do without. And if I'm looking back, might be okay that I did without. It really might be. Honestly, I learned as much during these live sessions. A lot of the content that I put out there, my content, I sound so fucking pretentious, and I don't mean to, but a lot of my content comes from these lives because we talk and we explain about what commonality we all have. TikTok wants me to verify I'm a human being. All right, verification complete, and I'm back. Hey, Bob Prince, good to see you. I didn't see you on until just now. Yeah, struggle's a good thing, but I think the parents still struggle. I think the adults in the world still struggle. Not sure the kids know that struggle's happening. Because, here's the proof of that. And again, this is just a realization. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm good with it. Let me know. But when the kids get to their 20s, and they start struggling, look at the TikToks, look at the YouTube videos. You'll see a lot of kids in their 20s, a lot of young adults in their 20s, really being shocked that working really hard does not mean you can afford your own apartment, does not necessarily mean you can have the nicest car, does not necessarily mean you live in the best neighborhood. And they seem shocked at it. But I think we've raised a generation of children that maybe didn't realize as young kids that things were as tough as they were. My parents let me know things were tough constantly. I think we all heard it. Turn the goddamn lights off before leaving the house. They're not free. Close the damn door. You're not going to air condition. What air conditioning? Heat. You're not going to heat the whole neighborhood. Mary Clayton, welcome to the Gen X Avengers. Thank you for your support. When you guys hear me do that from TikTok over, there's just a membership group over on YouTube, which is just a way for people to show support and get a cool badge and title and my undying affection. But yeah, I don't think we let kids know how tough things are. And I think that's something I need to talk about. And it's something I need to introduce to my kids a little more, maybe. The 20-year-old's starting to hear it. We heard about toughness and struggles all the time, mostly through parental arguments. My parents didn't fight much in front of me. I will say that. Thank you, Thank you, Marie. Thank you so much. I had no idea. I thought what we had was more than enough rain. It was. It didn't take much to make us happy. But our parents let us know things were tough. My dad talked about money a lot. Didn't teach us about money. I don't remember ever having a discussion about, the credit cards and things like that. That was left for us to discover on our own a lot of the times, but we heard of the value of money. Can't afford air freshener. Let him match. Started babysitting at 11. That's how we learned about money. Some women will pipe in here in any second now and say they started at 9. My son is 25, John says, and he sees it. Yeah, and I said, and in the 20s, I think is where a lot of them see it. And I think for some of them, it's a shock. I cook at home all the time. My sons don't appreciate how good they've had it. They will. What time is it, babe? Okay. Oh, how about the game Mousetrap? So that was my beautiful wife letting me know that I've got some time to spend with my munchkin. I told you it's not yet dark and I wanted to play games outside with the kids. I think I'm actually going to do it. The kids are asking if I can come play. So it's been a little more than an hour, I think. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I really have. I hope it works going live both on YouTube and TikTok at the same time. Because I just didn't know which to go on, and I kind of like two birds, one stone. I think I kept up with comments as best I can. Can you get me on your podcast? Go ahead and send me a direct message if you haven't already, and we can see if I can get it's a time thing more than anything else, but I'd love to. So yeah, if I missed your comments, I'm sorry. I will do whatever I can to get better at this. I had an amazing time. I appreciate it. Sunday night, it's all about YouTube. If those of you on TikTok don't follow me on YouTube, Gen X Jono. One word, GenXJono. Every Sunday night at 8 p.m., we're going to start going. It's our wonderful world of Disney, but it's the wonderful world of Generation X. Every Sunday night, we're doing it at 8 p.m. over on YouTube, and it's just talking about all things 70s, 80s, 90s. Join us on YouTube, please. 8 o'clock Eastern. Absolutely, Jabova. And then the show is on YouTube thereafter, and you can watch it after the fact. It's my favorite day of the week. It used to be on Facebook. Facebook screwed me over majorly. I'm done hosting it there for now. But YouTube's got a great platform for it. So please, those on TikTok, if you're not subscribed, jump over and subscribe briefly on YouTube, and then join us at 8 p.m. And we usually bring in guests. It's a little bit more structured than this craziness. And yeah, that's it. I'm going to go play. I'm going to go kick some cans. I think I've got some water balloons. I'm going to do what I can to teach these kids that I'm not thinking twice before I throw a ball very violently at their heads, because that's what life will do to them. So I will see you guys all on Sunday night. God bless. Thank you guys for everything. The generosity, the gifts, the follows, the shares. If the AG thing works, I will go back. At least for Sunday nights, I'll figure out a way to maybe do both, because I miss that community, and the community shouldn't be punished because Meta's full of jerks. All right, guys. Love you all. See you soon. See you Sunday. Yeah.